to the Legends Weekly Wrap-Up, hosted by Nathan Legend.
Tapped Out Nation, what is going on? And happy Independence Day to everyone out there in Tapped Out Nation. Welcome to the Legends Weekly Wrap-Up. I have a special guest with me tonight. Joining me from the DDT Archives, exclusive to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network, the courageous one, Chris Lotta.
What's up, everyone? Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.
I'm excited to be here.
That's excellent. How was your weekend?
Weekend was great, man. Spent some time with the wife. It was our first wedding anniversary, so kind of had to do a little bit of the family thing. Got some runs. Overall, just about as good of a weekend as you can have. How about you?
I actually went to a wrestling show in Forest Lake. I went and saw MIW, Minnesota Independent Wrestling, their Beer and Body Slams tour at the Forest Lake American Legion. It was a great show. Got to see El Bano take on the never-ending Scott Story for the MIW Heavyweight Championship. Scott Story retained. Got to see Stonehenge, Heavy Metal Lore. It was Officer Rod Justice. It was a great time. So let's get into the week in the WWE, and let's start with Monday Night Raw. And what was your initial take? What's your take on Raw, just overall? Because it was a go-home show. We got the Great Balls and Fuego coming up. What's your take on this episode?
So once you get past the silliness of the logo on every other screen, with the whole Great Balls of Fire actually being Balls of Fire, I thought Raw was really good. I thought it was probably the best show they've had in the last few weeks. I've really been starting to get to the point where I'm about to give up on it. And then they'll throw me something that'll keep me somewhat interested. And I have to tell you, for all the hate that The Miz takes over and over and over again, I thoroughly enjoy The Miz. And the fact that he gets people so riled up, it means he's doing his job.
Yeah. Miz is terrific, and he is solid in the ring. He does enough. He always tells a great story. He gets heat, and he does it the right way. He doesn't take too many cheap shots. He doesn't work the cheap heat too much. Big fan of The Miz. Enzo and Big Cass had a kind of a segment to begin. Enzo Amore cut a great promo. The biggest complaint that I had for the longest time was that they didn't really work to put over baby faces. They all kind of made them look like nerds. We'll get into a little more of that later. But in this promo, I think it worked. Enzo basically said, "This is who I am. You're nothing more than a 7-foot-tall catchphrase that I wrote." So he sent a little heat his way. I think it did. I think it did the job. And I'm excited.
It absolutely does. I think Enzo as a character, just you believe him. And being from New York, living on the border in New Jersey, he personifies what most of my friends were growing up, just constantly running their mouths. And it's always the guys that you don't necessarily anticipate being able to back it up. But then deep down, you know who they're getting into it with and know that size really doesn't matter. He's got a bite that's just as big as his bark. It's just suppressed down, and he's always had the 7-foot monster behind him, so he's never had to fight his battles. But he just has that inbred in him to take the hit, come back. It was just about as believable of a promo as has been cut on Raw in such a long time.
Yeah, I would say other than Lesnar and Joe, this is probably the one I'm looking forward to the most. And it saddens me because when you look at the women's division, we're getting Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks. And the match that led to this, the Nia Jax, we talked about last week with the gauntlet match, didn't go the way I'd wanted. You kind of had Sasha come in and steal a win. And this week, more tag team action. We always talk about champions. If you're a singles champ and you're booked in a tag team match, you're losing. That's kind of a theme. And what do you make of this match? Because I'm going to say some things about it. I want to get your take on it.
So, on paper, it looks like it could be a really solid match. But watching their interactions in the ring during that tag match, their chemistry was off. Or at least it felt like it. So, my biggest concern with the Sasha Banks big-time match on pay-per-view has always been her better matches come on Raw. And as soon as those spotlights get real big, it's not that she's not able to deliver, but I feel like she tries to over-deliver, and as a result, the product takes a step back. Because they're both incredibly talented. I like Alexa a lot, and I've always been on the Sasha bandwagon. So I think, in theory, it could be really good, just I'm not feeling it right now because of the way they got there. I thought there were better ways to get to where they were going.
Absolutely. The issue I have is okay, so it's a tag match. You got Sasha and Bayley versus Alexa and Nia Jax, right? So you have Bayley basically get taken out, come back from commercial, oh, Bayley can't compete now. So now you have Sasha in a handicap match against the champ and the overpowering, dominant wrestler in the women's division. So then they found a way to basically have Nia get basically outsmarted and look like a nerd. And then the champion gets submitted and looks like a nerd. And then Sasha wins. So they took out basically 3 of the 4 people in this match to get the result that they wanted. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong. But can I play a little devil's advocate with you? So
yeah.
Obviously the WWE now kills that whole champion in a tag match, you take the loss. I agree with that 100%. Back in the day when it happened every once in a while, it was great to build that person up as a legitimate contender in a very quick period of time. But now it's overdone. 100% agree with you. The ability to make Sasha shine shouldn't have to come at the detriment of 3 women. So I'm completely on page with you on that one.
Do you think Sasha wins Sunday?
I hope not.
I thought you said you're on the Sasha bandwagon.
I am, but I also said I'm a big Alexa fan.
Okay.
It's not her time right now. I think Alexa's doing a good job. I think Alexa taking it into SummerSlam as the champ just extends the run. I'm kind of tired of seeing the women's title bounce back and forth to people. Needs to stay solid on somebody for at least 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, I don't see Sasha winning on Sunday. I think they'll find a way to just have Alexa escape with it. That's kind of their thing with her, is because she's small in stature, they can have her kind of escape with these wins, which is fine. I want to go to something, and I want to get your take on this. Now, you're an old school fan. I'm somewhat of an old school fan myself. The Golden Truth storyline, how do you feel about this?
I like it because I have an idea of one more run for Goldust in that old school Goldust character. What I will say is being severely limits where it can go. And that part is disappointing. They're not getting close to that blurred line that they used to in the 90s. Understandably so. It's a different climate. But I am excited to see Goldust get one more run, whether that winds up getting to an Intercontinental Championship or not. I would like to see him have a little bit of success before his career wraps up. As far as R-Truth, I could take or leave it. I like the comedic aspect of him. Obviously, right now they're crushing that because of the storyline. But I see him as someone that puts on good matches, not great, like right home about matches, but he doesn't have terrible matches either. You're never bored during an R-Truth match. You just may never be excited either.
Would it be any worse than it is right now to have Goldust as Intercontinental Champ? I think that'd be just fine. Seeing as what's been happening to that belt, and that it's just Miz and Dean Ambrose and Miz, back to Ambrose. Ziggler had it, then back to Miz. Like, we've talked about the Drifter, we've talked about Finn Balor. Would Goldust be a logical move at this point?
I mean, it would be an okay move to it. I think he needs to go through probably another feud or two to get himself elevated to there, because it would be a tough storyline sell to get him into that just out of nowhere. I actually think there is an Intercontinental Champ within the company right now, but won't get the call up. I think Bobby
Slater,
Roode,
right?
No, I think Bobby Roode is if you think about the history of the Intercontinental, it is Bobby Roode. That is the guy that can bring instant credibility to that title. He'll put on the best match on the card every night, and he can work with everyone.
You think he's on his way up, though?
Pull that trigger.
I don't see him going up.
No shot they're going to bring him up. No, but I think it would be, I'll tell you what, that would be a nice little swerve that I would be excited about.
So no to Heath Slater, then, is what you're saying?
No, I don't see it. I like Heath Slater. He's entertaining. His T-shirt pops my wife every time, and I'd be okay with it. I just think there are guys that are more deserving of it at the moment.
Which feud has less of a story? Alexa and Sasha, or Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt?
Alexa Sasha has less of a story. I'm still not sure what the story is with Wyatt and Rollins. They haven't done a really good job telling where the issue started. And I think that's been my biggest problem with it. The idea of them in a match is appealing to me. I think they're two of the better workers in the company. So I'm okay with that. I don't necessarily understand the build-up to the match.
Do you think they're afraid to put a belt on Rollins after they just pushed him toward everything back in 2015?
I think you're always going to have that stigma when you've been out a couple times with injury. I think he's got the same issue that Finn Balor has of trying to stay healthy and prove to everyone that they're healthy. But I've also been a proponent of to have the best match on the card. And I think Rollins has the potential every time he goes out to have the best match on the card.
Do you see Wyatt winning this?
No, because he doesn't win on pay-per-view other than that one time.
Well, didn't he win the House of Horrors?
I guess technically he did.
Yeah.
So he's won twice on pay-per-view. in a lot of years.
Do we need to talk about Finn Balor and Cesaro?
So I would like to touch on one thing, because the internet kind of blew up a little bit that Balor didn't sell. And I went back and I rewatched the match, and I think people are just trying to pigeonhole Balor. I believe that Balor did sell in that match. Cesaro's not built up. Look, we all know, we've seen the workout videos. Cesaro's a beast in the gym. I get that. However, he's not built up as this guy that's going to absolutely crush you. So why does he have to sell like he's dead in a match with Cesaro? He sold every move. He didn't bounce right back up and get it. He got a burst of energy to win a match. How is that different than 90% of other wrestling matches? I personally really enjoy Balor. I know he's not necessarily your favorite, and that's
Correct.
okay. I believe in his arsenal, and I get that some people feel that it's repetitive and boring. However, if you think about what a 6'1", 200-pound guy would need to do to beat a bigger guy, it's kicks to stomp him, do whatever you got to do to get it done. And that's his offense. So to me, it actually airs more to the believability side rather than some of the other possibilities, which would include some flips, jumping over ropes, because let's be honest, if he did that, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to tweet that you hate him, or he's going to get hurt. So I think he's in a spot where he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't.
So if I have this right, the complaints that you saw were that they wanted Balor to sell like Shawn Michaels selling Hulk Hogan at SummerSlam 2005.
That's kind of how I read it.
Okay. Now, I think Balor's fine. I'm not a huge fan of him. He's fine. He sold that match okay. But it goes back to we're talking about champions taking losses. Cesaro's a current champion. He's going to lose because it's a non-tag match. But I thought that was the best match of the night. And as for the selling thing, I thought he sold fine. But what I wanted more of was babyface type selling. Does that make sense? Like Robert Gibson type selling. Like he doesn't have to crawl and like tell the people in the first row to help him or anything, but like I wanted a little bit more, I guess. I didn't want HBK doing front flips after getting a big boot from Hulk Hogan, but I guess I just wanted more of it.
I can see that, but I don't know if Balor's character is that old school babyface that he needs to do that. His character is actually designed to be a tweener. If you think about it, with the alter ego that pops up every once in a while, which we haven't seen on the main roster, but eventually it's coming. He's
Prince Devitt.
Yeah. I'm okay with him being an in-between guy. I think the crowd reaction would be he's a total babyface, but the way he works, he's a tweener. And I see him as a tweener. I guess if I saw him as a full-blown babyface, I would be upset about it too. I see your logic in that perfectly.
The thing of it is, like, it's almost better that they don't book him as a true blue baby because they can't do that now without making them look like nerds, and we've seen that with Bayley. So to keep him where it is, I think it's fine. I would see Balor as Intercontinental Champ. I'd like that. We've talked about that. Roman and Strowman and Titus O'Neil and Apollo Crews. This was fine, but how did this come about exactly? How did we have the Titus brand come into this equation?
So I believe the storyline went that there was everyone of importance was booked in a match already. So Angle told Strowman he had nobody for him. And Strowman said, Kurt, you're a smart man. You need to get me somebody. And then Titus gave his, hey, any publicity is good publicity. Let's go make some money. And put his brand in peril and let him go out and challenge Strowman. And talk about a guy that just got lost when he came up. Apollo Crews.
Yeah.
There was such promise and then just nothing. And it's a little bit disappointing because he did have that nice indie buzz coming in, but really hasn't made much, or they haven't given him the opportunity to make much of anything. And that's a little bit disappointing because I think he is incredibly talented.
Yeah, it's almost like, well, wasn't he slated to be NXT champ, but then something went wrong and he didn't quite make it. But he's a really talented wrestler. who they've written no angles for. Like, can you think of an angle other than this Titus bullshit, which I actually kind of like? So I guess I shouldn't call it that. But I can't even think of one on the top of my head. It's so like pedestrian.
No,
meaning his
nothing.
booking. He's great, but his booking has been so forgettable.
Yeah, there's nothing that really has stood out, especially since the transition over to Raw. The other miss with the Titus brand, you have this idea and this concept of the Titus brand. How about some Titus brand merch?
Yes. Yes.
Like, how do you have a brand and not be able to sell anything? Doesn't make sense to me. What is your brand then?
Yeah, I think that's some of the novelty in the angle itself. But I do agree. Like, even if he had merch to plug, that would make more sense about going and, getting this money and all that. But it was an okay show. You got anything else on Raw? I want to move to the 4th of July special Smackdown.
I'm good with Raw.
Smackdown Live, July 4th edition. Start with a patriotic video package. And we get the return of John Cena. John Cena makes his return. Gets interrupted by Rusev. So we get Rusev and Cena. And could we have predicted anything else other than a stereotypical foreign asshole heel angle against John Cena?
It's the only way to keep him fully face. That's what they were trying to do. Bring Cena back as the ultimate good guy at first. And I have to be honest, I consider Cena a legend completely. Not legend like you legend.
Thank you.
A WWE legend. And a future Hall of Famer. His 15-year career has had its ups and downs, but overall has been really solid, and he's been a great company guy. That being said, I think and I saw someone tweeted it out before, and it might have been Nick. The idea he's getting the Cena sucks during the song, it's the equivalent to Angle now. And when I read that, I was like, yeah, that's true. I don't think there's as much heat on Cena in the live crowd as people think there is.
I don't think there is either. And even if there's people that actually are legitimately mad at Cena or that he has go-away heat from them, he's so good at using that and just using it as his own fuel at this point that it really doesn't matter. And Cena is one of the all-time greats, and he is a Hall of Famer, of course, but I still don't like him. I don't care for him. He's great. He does really good work. He doesn't have very many matches that I would say are poor matches, but I just don't have it, man. I don't know. You talk about they had to make sure he was a full-blown baby. It works the same thing for Rusev, too, because this was Rusev's return, and he got kind of a reaction when he came out, and they wanted to kill that right away and say, okay, now this is the bad guy, don't forget that. So I think having this kind of tried and true, USA type angle is exactly what they needed. Now, they had two of these on the same show, though. I will point that out. Because we got the same basic angle with Jinder and Randy. But what can you do, right?
Do you think they missed the boat by moving them both onto the same brand if this is what they were going to do? Because you have the two legit foreigners, and really three, with Kevin Owens being the Canadian saying he's the face of America. Like, do you think one of them should have stayed on Raw and had that foreign heel look on Raw to balance it out a little bit? Because I agree with what you're saying.
Maybe so, but I think that this is not going to be a thing every week. I think they wanted to ride the momentum of Independence Day, and it was the perfect time to do it. because we are getting that old school flag match between Cena and Rusev at Battleground. So I don't know if they'll feud past that. I mean, feud again past that. But I think that, having Cena back is good for ratings, of course. Like, I'm on board with that. But I'm not sure. And where does Lana fit into that, too? Maybe that weird Lana getting escorted by Tamina thing has something to do with Rusev's return.
I don't know. That's a lot of dots to connect, though, to get to there. I don't know.
Well, so Lana had a rematch, I guess. Some post online about her shoulders were not down, so it was a false count, or, it shouldn't have been a pin. Do you remember WCW Nitro in 2000 when this same thing happened at a pay-per-view, and it was Arn Anderson was the guest referee, and he had to come out on Nitro and say this was the wrong thing to do. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. And WCW from anywhere past 98 sucked, and I love WCW. So you're just making me relive the end of my childhood.
Okay, good. That's what the Legend Show is all about, is making you feel bad. So, but this was very reminiscent of this. But so Lana got squashed immediately by Naomi within like 10 seconds. And then Tamina comes on and just kind of escorts her off of the ring. And nothing was really explained. They didn't really, Tom Phillips didn't say much about it. What do you make of this?
I don't think they didn't explain it to Lana either. She was confused. She just sat there puzzled. I don't know where this is going. I hope it does not end in a Tamina versus Naomi match, because that would be atrocious. When you have quality women's wrestlers on the roster on SmackDown, you cannot go Tamina and Naomi for your championship, can you?
I think you could, but I don't think it would be smart. I think that would probably be the shits as far as the booking goes. And I'm just not sure where that's going. I think it may have something to do with Rusev, but, we talked earlier about we had two kind of similar angles. Randy Orton came on, and he and Aiden English had a thing last week where Aiden got RKO'd. And this week, Aiden was singing a song. Randy interrupts. And they actually did this right. Aiden used his microphone to kind of smack Orton from behind. Like the heel should, right?
Yep.
Okay, love it. Then you went to commercial. We came back. Orton basically beats the shit out of Aiden English, and then gets himself disqualified for using the stairs. Right? So it's like, who can out-heel the other guy? And, it was going so great. Why did they have to go this route?
It's very reminiscent of Money in the Bank 2011 with Orton and Christian, where there's the actual stipulation of, hey, if you get disqualified, I get the title. And Orton's anger issues. So I know you've given a lot of pushback on Orton not really having a character and being kind of boring. Maybe this is kind of bringing him back to a little bit of his roots, where he's the unpredictable, just goes off on any second. And people are always going to either be behind Randy or against him. He's another guy that's a tweener that I think he's better as a pure-blown heel, but I don't know if he'll ever fully be a heel again in any audience. Because at this point, I think when you've worked as long as he has, there's always going to be a group of people like myself that are going to support him. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. So I think at least now they're playing up something within his character to kind of say, okay, so he's angry, he's volatile again, and now maybe he's neutralizing the fact that it's, in in this Punjabi prison. But with his anger, does Jinder want to be locked into this horrendous idea of a match with him?
Yeah, when it comes to Randy saying, I'm going to RKO your ass back to India, like, that's a lot. Come on.
It's overselling, but, I mean, listen, he's not Canadian in the storyline. There was nothing Canadian about the celebration when he won the title. So, I mean, I get it. It's overselling it. You're absolutely right. But at the same time, I'm okay with it because that's just Randy being Randy.
But Myron said it on the show. Since when do we have beef with India?
We don't. He's just sending him back there. There's nothing. He's not saying I'm sending you back there for India to get worse. He's saying I'm sending you back where people might accept you.
And then we get the, Jinder, they don't hate you because of who you are. They hate you because you're a jackass. Like, okay. I don't know, man. Like,
it's a true statement.
Jinder's a jackass?
Oh, come on. He's supposed to be.
His character is, sure.
That's the point. That's the character that he's playing is a jackass. That's exactly right. And that's what they're going for. They're hoping that the fans believe that. I'm okay with that statement.
We did hear some "Let's Go Jinder" chants tonight when he came out. Breezango coming out. Tyler Breeze wearing drag once again.
There's kind of getting over. That.
It's kind of getting over at this point. And he interviews Ty Dillinger backstage. They're having a Independence Day Battle Royale to decide who's going to be facing Kevin Owens at Battleground for the United States Championship. And Ty Dillinger worked pretty well with Tyler Breeze, I would say.
Definitely.
And they're kind of riding the line with Breezango. I think they said at one point Fandango said it's going to come to blows for America. Like they're working in enough like tee-hee pun type jokes with them. And he's like stroking his hair, the wig that he was wearing, and it's fun. I'm so on board with Breezango. What do you think?
I enjoy them. I think they're good comic relief. I have a tremendous amount of respect for both guys. I think it's good that they're both getting the TV time that they deserve.
I got some questions tonight on the Twitter saying, what was the point of this battle royale? What was the point? Nothing happened. Well, what would you say the point of this was tonight, Chris?
Well, first and foremost, it would be to give Kevin Owens an opponent for pay-per-view.
Yep.
And it served as a catalyst to break up the Hype Brothers after a whole 2-week entrance.
Boom. Why would they break up the Hype Bros, though?
Because where do they fit?
Exactly. And I'm a huge fan of Mojo and Ryder, but they have these tag teams, and to develop an angle of, Mojo eliminated Zack Ryder. So that's essentially the end of the Hype Bros. Let's have an undercard feud with Mojo and Zack Ryder. Like, I'm fine with that. Developing angles and having pieces kind of fall into place, that's the point. People can look at, it's just AJ Styles again against Kevin Owens. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
Nothing at all.
Yeah. They didn't have their greatest match back at, what the hell was it? Backlash? I can't keep all these names straight at this point. But, Sammy and Kevin Owens would have been a great match. They had a great match at last year's Battleground. So that would have been nice.
We've seen it so much over the last 12 months that I kind of want to see them keep them apart for a little while, to be honest. And I like the idea of Mike Kanellis and Sami Zayn. I think that's gonna knock people's socks off. We might actually finally see Sami Zayn being Sami Zayn with someone else other than Kevin Owens.
I think that Mike Kanellis Zayn feud, because it looks like we're getting that at this point. I think it's one of those, like, this is so lame that there's no way this could deliver at all. So it's almost like they're setting the bar low for us to just completely, like, deliver. Because a lot of the fans have not seen what Mike Kanellis, it's weird calling him Mike Kanellis, what Mike Kanellis can do. Wouldn't you agree?
I would. And I'm not a big Ring of Honor or Impact guy, but that dude can go. He can. Yeah. He belongs where he is now, and I'm glad they didn't put him down in NXT first. I think it has a ton of potential. The one thing I will say, the one piece that's missing from this gimmick is a return of Brother Love. I would love to see Bruce Pritchard just show up at some point, just say, fuck Impact, and just show up on SmackDown. How amazing would that be?
Oh, God. That would be amazing. Would that add to this feud, though? Like
Not
this
to this
particular
feud,
one? Okay.
But just overall, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. Agreed. One thing we did not touch on, which was my favorite segment of the night, and I didn't think it was going to be my favorite segment, was the rap battle between the New Day and the Usos, with Wale as the referee of the rap battle. Would you say?
Yeah,
The curator.
I haven't been to very many rap battles, but we'll call him the referee. I forget what it was in 8 Mile. What was that? What was his role? He's the hype man, maybe the hype man.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Wale Falarin is a huge wrestling fan. Goes to basically every WrestleMania. And what was your overall impression of this rap battle?
I enjoyed it. It was definitely the best segment, possibly of the entire week in professional wrestling. The one piece that I just imagine how good this would have been during the Attitude Era, when they could have actually said everything that they implied. Because when they went after Xavier Woods, I was almost crying laughing. It was awesome.
So, for those listening, they basically made a remark about being rated R like Xavier Woods, which we all know what he's referencing there. At that point, the New Day then made a reference to the Usos carrying Roman's bags for him, and this was a complete work all the way, but it had enough of quote-unquote realism in it to hook the audience, and this was thoroughly entertaining.
I would have liked to have seen the Usos not leave so willingly, and then I think it would have taken that believability even one more notch further. I think them just being like, fine, we're disqualified, that kind of limited them to an extent. And okay, clearly that's a work. If they had really tried to go back at them, then maybe for a second you can suspend your disbelief and be like, that really got to them. If somebody told me I carry my cousin's bags, I'd be pretty pissed too.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to bring back an old trope, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to give me what you thought was the shits for this week, and what you thought was your biggest positive takeaway from Raw or SmackDown. You pick. I haven't done this in a while.
All right.
But I'm gonna give you the opportunity.
The shits was Naomi and Lana for sure. I get that it was the blow off, but it was the shits. I think the highlight of the week, it's probably a tie between the rap battle and Enzo's opening promo on Raw. Those are probably my two best points of wrestling this week.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't like to repeat once I get an answer, but the shits for me was not only the fact that we had a squash between Lana and Naomi, but the fact that we didn't get any other women's wrestling really to speak of. We got Daniel Bryan basically saying, I'm fining you $10,000, James Ellsworth, and also you're suspended for 30 days, apparently because he had broken his getting kicked out of the arena from last week, I assume. Would you say that's accurate?
I would agree with that. I think it takes away a little bit of the heater on Carmella, but I'm okay with it. I would have liked to have seen more women's work overall on the show, though.
Yeah, and as far as the my best takeaway, honestly, it's not going to be an answer that you'd probably expect, but I would say it's the lead up to Neville and Tozawa.
Okay.
Bet you weren't expecting that answer, were you?
No, but I'm anti 205 Live, so I get it.
The thing, okay, Neville's tremendous.
He is 100%.
He's
I agree.
So good. Tozawa is so good, and if you take the purple ropes and that bullshit aside, you have two guys who can work with the best of them on the main roster, I believe. Tozawa is to the point where he's doing sentons outside the ring through tables on top of Brian Kendrick, and basically get like he can't buy a reaction from the crowd. It's absolutely sad. But having said that, I am very excited about the opportunity of that booking, and that's my big takeaway.
Nice.
What else you got? The courageous one.
So, one thing I will say, what do you take of, you have two tag teams breaking up on different shows simultaneously? There should have been a little bit of spacing out between them.
I would probably say, yeah, I'd agree with that. By the teams, you're talking about Enzo and Cass and the Hype Bros?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're jumping a little bit ahead, assuming that's what's going to happen. But yeah, I think just kind of let one play out and then go to the other. I don't think you're hurting the Hype Bros by waiting a month to do it, because it feels like their writing is just copying.
Yeah, but I also think that's kind of in right now. I think like heel turns and betrayal, like friend betrayals, are like the end thing. I mean, they did it with the DIY.
Yep.
I almost said the revival with the Ciampa and Gargano. And that was a big hit. And they do it with Enzo and Cass. That was a big hit. I think you will see a little bit more from the Hype Bros. I don't think tonight was their breakup. I think something's going to come of it. But in this case, I would say it's actually probably a better idea to just go with it. People are into that. Like the Enzo and Cass breakup has delivered so huge that I think they just want to capitalize on it. I think Vince and the writers are saying, oh, like this is getting a lot of good social media attention, so let's do it. But who knows? The biggest takeaway from, like I said, I don't know if they're going to do it with the Hype Bros. I'm a fan of the Hype Bros, but we'll see what happens. Coming up, we got Nick and Myron will be at the Southern Fried Wrestling Weekend. This is July 13th in Monroe, Georgia. And they will be attending that show. Stay tuned to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. We will be speaking with Hawk Thomas, our friend O'Shea Edwards, friend of the show. We spoke with him before. I'm actually wearing his tank top right now. You can find that on Pro Wrestling Tees. And Drew Blood. So stay tuned for those interviews. We will also be at the Milestone show with Rocky Mountain Pro. That is August 11th. So Nick and I will be flying out. I will be at that show, Rocky Mountain Pro. And who knows where I'm going to be this weekend. I plan on being at a wrestling show. If you happen to catch me in the metro area, the Twin Cities, I will be wearing my Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast shirt. Let's grab a beer. Let's grab a photo. Let's talk some wrestling. You can find everything about the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast at tappedoutvwrestlingpodcast.com. You can hit us up. The best way to do it is by email, tappedoutvwrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. We are very active on the Twitter. That is at tappedoutpod. That's at tappedoutpod. If you want to speak to the courageous one, Chris Lotta, on the Twitter, where can they find you, Chris?
The courageous_1.
You can find the legend at Litman316. It's like Hitman with an L. Legends never die. At the tappedoutvwrestlingpodcast.com site, you can find all of our shows, all of our affiliates. You can also find the Fight app. Are you a fan of the Fight app, Chris?
I am. I make sure I watch Rocky Mountain Pro and Rockstar Pro whenever I get the opportunity to.
There is Rockstar Pro, Rocky Mountain Pro, ICW Fight Club. There's pay-per-views. There's Impact pay-per-views. Any wrestling you basically cannot catch on the WWE Network, there is likely an aspect or a piece of it to be found on the Fight app. You can also find our Amazon link. So if you love the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast, a great way to support the network is going to our website. There's an Amazon link there. Anything that you would normally purchase from Amazon, you can buy through our website. You don't have to pay a penny extra. What they do is they kick us a little bit of commission to help drive traffic to their site. Finally, you can purchase your Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast t-shirt. ProWrestlingTees.com. Type in Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast in the search bar. I can see that the courageous one is wearing his right now. Love it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you the chance to kind of send us off here, courageous one. What time is it?
It is time to tap out.